This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs.
This is all of my camera gear, but this is the gear that I actually use. Let me tell you why. I will tell you why today. All right, now the cameras that I use for my video production. My main camera, honestly, has nothing to do with the quality that I get out of it, which I mean, I want good quality, but for a stationary setup like this, you don't need the best camera nowadays. You just need some good lighting and you're good. My main setup here, I'm using the FX30. Okay, I have other cameras that could probably do a better job and full frame and all the things. Oh, get in here real quick. So why do I use the FX30? For me, the FX30, well, my FX3 got stolen, but I got the FX30 instead because I didn't need the low light capabilities. Again, it's a stationary setup. For me, this is the all-in-one solution. So I have the XLR audio going straight into the camera, okay? I have the option of embedding LUTs into the footage. So essentially, when I'm done filming and recording, here, I'm gonna go on this side. So when I'm here and I have a teleprompter set up, the 151.4G lens on the FX30. So when I'm done filming, I have a USB-C cord right here. I connect it to my computer. I just drag that file onto my computer and it's color graded. The audio's good. It's all done, all in one shot. Oh, my mom's here. Always when I'm filming, always. We're filming right now. We're filming a video, Mom, and you. So I had some good momentum, Mom. I'm gonna just go ahead and try to knock this out real quick. No, it's okay. It's okay. Now for where's my other camera? Oh, so like I was saying, I have at least 6 cameras that can do this job. And purchasing the FX30 was totally unnecessary, but the XLR audio is what won me over. I mean, there are very few cameras out there that offer this kind of package, and especially around $2,000, I have a camera that can do it all. Audio, got the built-in LUTs. The only issue I've had with the FX30, I've had firmware update issues. So I'm stuck at firmware 1.05. And I don't know about you guys that own the FX30, I cannot get past this firmware and I don't know what the hell is going on. One of my most used cameras to create content on this channel and just in general, the Sony ZV-E1. This has been my main content camera since it launched, and truly I think it's one of my favorite cameras that they've ever created. So A7S III sensor in a tiny body, I just don't think there's anything else out there that can match it in such a small package. But it's not all great. The screen is damn near unusable when you're outdoors, and even when you're indoors, the screen is just not great at all. And the camera does run hot, even when you're shooting long form video indoors. I have a little Ulanzi fan that connects to the right in here, and it pretty much solved that issue for me. But what's interesting is that even though this is one of my favorite cameras, lately, I have actually been shooting more with the Sony A7S III. Even though it has a lot less features, it almost feels forgotten about when we're talking about firmware updates. But there is something about this camera, a feature on this camera that it just isn't talked about enough. All right, I am not a professional videographer, but I'll tell you what, from my experience doing YouTube, and I've been doing this for over 8 years, an underrated feature of a video-centric camera is having an electronic viewfinder. Not only because when using a screen, I'll tend to overlook a lot of the details in a frame, but also exposing your camera on a bright sunny day, for example. So I was filming my course this fall and I was shooting on a 95 degree day. The sun was right above our heads. It's really bright sunny day. I had to bring a camera. I was doing this. I was filming the back of the camera. I was showing how to shoot it with off-camera flash so you can see all the settings of what I'm doing. The camera that I had here, I brought the FX30 with an 11mm 1.8 because I figured that's the only camera that's not gonna overheat when shooting 30 to an hour of just long form video in the bright sun, 95 degrees. The problem when I had the FX30 was I know that there's exposure tools, there's zebras, there's focus peaking and all the things to make sure everything was in focus, but I had a lot of anxiety because I could barely see the screen. Even if I had on sunny weather, I couldn't really tell if everything was in perfect focus, and I couldn't tell if it was exposed properly. I struggled a lot. And when I came back home, everything looked good, thank God. But when I came back, I was like, it'd be so nice to have a camera with an electronic viewfinder so I could confirm my exposure and focus through here without having to bring a big monitor and attach it to my camera, because I already brought so much gear with me. And I realized that one of the few cameras in the Sony lineup that has an electronic viewfinder that I can trust to shoot on a 95-degree day is, one of them is the A7S III, one of the few. A7S III. I would not trust my A7 IV, my A7R5. I would trust the A1, but that's the camera I was shooting with. So I realized how valuable the A7S III is. Yes, it's kind of the forgotten camera, firmware updates and all that, but it's one of the few cameras that still has an electronic viewfinder. And I wish, this is something that I feel like is lacking. I mean, just imagine there was an FX3, FX30, the cinema line. Imagine if they made like a portable EVF for those things. So when you're shooting on those bright days, you don't want to hook up an entire monitor and all that. This is an invaluable thing to have. And it's such a good one as well. This is probably why I'm probably never going to sell the A7S III. Not only is it a legendary camera, but it's just a really solid camera. It can do a little bit of everything. And one of the few cameras that I actually trust shooting outdoors for a long period of time. And now for my portrait photography. I do use a couple different cameras often, but I would say the one that I reach for the most, Sony A1. Biggest reason is the 1/400 flash sync speed. To a lot of people, this not a big deal, but for me, I shoot a lot of flash, and in the studio, I value the flexibility that the 1/400 flash sync speed it gives me when choosing my settings and determining what my settings are and how I'm going to control the ambient lighting in the studio. So I really like that. Of course, the image quality and the dynamic range on the A1 is second to none. And I just own so much more Sony glass than my other systems that it just makes more sense to go out with Sony, especially when I'm doing a run and gun shoot. It's just a fast camera. It does everything really quickly. And honestly, and this is one that people might not care about, but you ever think in the past, there's cameras that you've used that you just really enjoyed? The sound of the camera, the way it feels in the hand, like Nikon D600 for me was one, and the 5D Mark IV, 5D Mark III was another one for me. I love the way the camera felt in the hand. And Sony's mechanical shutters, usually, they don't sound really good, let's be honest. It's like kind of jagged. The A1 has just a very pleasant sound. I just really enjoy it. It's one of those things that are just very specific to me. Another camera that I use often is the Canon R5. Well, this is the Canon R5 Mark II, and I would use more if I had more Canon glass. I mean, the 85 1.2 is a big reason why I choose to pick up Canon. There's a lot of reasons why I like shooting with Canon, but again, this is just about the cameras that I use, and I usually choose the A1 more often than not. Now, a camera that I have been picking up a lot more often recently, or at least last year, is the Hasselblad X2D, probably the most beautiful camera ever created, in my opinion. For me, on location, it gives me it has a leaf shutter, so it gives me a 1/4000 flash sync speed. You get better recycle times, your flash is not stressing out as much with high-speed sync, and you're getting more power out of it. So I can go out with a smaller flash and have a little bit more power, a little bit more pop compared to when I would use one of the other cameras. The detail, I love shooting the 4:3 aspect ratio that medium format gives you, the 16-bit color. The back screen looks like a mini iPad, and it's also very compact, but the experience, it's one of those things that you have to use to kind of understand what it's like. It's like the Rolls Royce of cameras. I really love picking this camera up. Now, before I share the cameras that I use on a daily basis to take, family photos, pets, kids, everything else in between, I first want to give a shout out to my sponsor for this video, and that is Squarespace.
Hey you, what are you waiting for? It's 2025. It's time to finally start a website with Squarespace. Now, if you want to start a website, blog, or even an online store, say less. I've been using Squarespace for years now, and I don't think you realize how easy and intuitive it is to use. You can easily grab your own custom domain and then build a site that looks professional without needing a single coding or design skill. And I'm talking zero tech knowledge required. They also have some of the best SEO tools that will help your site get discovered by exactly who you want to find it. With Design Intelligence, powered by AI, it'll help you create a site that's uniquely yours and your style with no effort required. Seriously, it's like having your own personal designer. Now, if you want to make some side hustle money, you can create an online store like I did and make some money while you sleep. So if you have been waiting for the right moment to start, this is it. You can get 10% off your first purchase if you use the coupon code Manny. Now, for my everyday camera, the one that I use to take pictures of my dogs, my family, and everything else in between, I use the X100V. I actually sold my X100VI because I just wasn't taking enough advantage of the upgrades, and I just felt like over time, the image quality bump, it was just so subtle comparing the two, because I mean, I used a lot of the film recipes, the custom film recipes that usually decrease the sharpness and add grain anyway. So it just didn't make sense to keep the 100VI, and the 5 has been doing plenty good job for those moments of documenting. Another camera that I use often is the DJI Pocket 3. The funny thing about the Pocket 3 is that sometimes I'm blown away by the footage that it can create, and then at times I'm very underwhelmed. Like, I once thought about trying, because the Pocket 3 was like one of the most viral cameras out there. I thought about just replacing all of my video equipment with just the Pocket 3 for all of my video production and even my talking head videos like this. But there was always something about how it handles highlights. And let's say the light fall off in here on a talking head setup that just never looked natural, right? Let me show you an example. I'm gonna turn this on. I have manual settings on already. All right, now I'm filming on the DJI Pocket 3. I'm using manual settings. I'm at zero exposure. So this is how the camera, what the camera determines to be perfect exposure. And my issue has always been how the light falls onto the face. I don't know, it just looks muddy, right? Gives me those iPhone portrait vibes where it can get kind of muddy. Now the workaround to this has always been, I will underexpose the shot, almost a stop. So here I underexpose the stop, and to me, on the rear screen here, this looks better. My face doesn't look as muddy, but I mean, I'm at, -1 here. So obviously there's something going on with the dynamic range of this camera. So I think that whenever they make the new Pocket camera, the Pocket 4, Pocket 4 Pro, whatever it is, I feel like they're gonna have to do something about the dynamic range on this little sensor. I mean, maybe I'm asking for too much. And also little things like focus breathing can be kind of distracting at times. All right, well, those are the pieces of gear that I actually use. Again, there are a lot of gear crosses by this table, and these are the ones that I prefer to use for myself and the reasons why. Honorary mention, the S9. This camera caused a lot of commotion on the internet when it was launched. And the S9 with the firmware updates and everything, this is actually a fun camera to use with the LUTs. I mostly use this for my Instagram uploads because the Lumix Lab app actually works really well uploading everything on here. So anyway, that is all I have for today. Stay tuned for another video. I have 2 videos. Actually, I'm putting out like 3 to 4 videos in February. Talk to you later.